Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Further details of the missing millions in the Development Bank of St. Kitts disclosed by the Prime Minister. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 19th September 2023, brought to you in association with our friends at Antillian Group. Details when we return.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. In the ongoing issue in which Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew of St. Kitts and Nevis has persistently pointed to improper banking activities conducted in the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis, Prime Minister Drew disclosed further details while a guest on a well-known talk show of Freedom FM 106.5. Glenn Bart of SKN Newsline reports.
In the ongoing issue in which Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew has persistently pointed to improper banking activities conducted at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis, Prime Minister Drew disclosed further details while a guest on a well-known talk show of Freedom FM 106.5. The auditing firm he referred to was identified as MNP LLC of Canada. According to Dr. Drew, the report reveals how nearly $20 million was taken out of the bank. This is an extraction of his reading of the report on the talk show.
Beginning in October 2019, the bank issued checks payable to, and the person's name, which I would not call today, a Development Bank SKN employee. So in October 2019, the bank would write checks in employee's name or particular employee of the Development Bank, St. Kitts Nevis. So here is an employee. The bank would issue a check in the name of that employee. And guess what happened? In some cases, checks were issued to other individuals, so that employee and others. However, the vast majority of these, approximately $20 million over time. So here is an employee. The bank is writing a check in that employee's name. Other checks were written. I am just talking about the 20 million because more money is unaccounted for. Approximately $20 million over time. And this is on page 121 of the report, a report prepared by MNP LLP, a chartered professional accountancy and business advisory firm in Canada. It's about the Development Bank. This is on page 121. I give that for those who might just have tuned in. However, the vast majority of these checks, approximately $20 million EK, $20 million over time were issued to that person. And we have the name and the stub of the checks that went to National Bank. He indicated that she took the checks to the National Bank and cashed the checks and then delivered the cash in large envelopes back to the bank, and that he never had any knowledge of the amount or use of the cash after that point.
The Prime Minister also pointed to the previous CEO of the Development Bank in reference to the peace program. SK Newsline is attempting to engage with the former CEO on these matters. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
Trinidad and Tobago's Energy Chamber Chief Executive Officer Dr. Thackeray Driver says the Chamber is looking forward to the changes with the tax regime surrounding the oil and gas industry in the upcoming budget. And in the meantime, Touchstone Exploration hosted a premiere of the World documentary to discover the possibilities that lie ahead in addressing climate change. Details in this CNC3 edition of Business Watch.
Speaking to Business Watch Wednesday evening, Driver said these changes are important within the industry.
The changes which are going to help encourage investment in oil and natural gas production, because the country needs to see those investment dollars flowing in, so that we can get back our gas production back to meet demand and ensure we have a long future for Atlantic and for the petrochemical industry in Point Lisas.
Canadian energy company Touchstone Exploration hosted their premiere of the World documentary last evening called Without Leaving Anyone Behind. The 40-minute documentary dealt with climate change in a pragmatic, non-polarized manner and transitioned to a new energy future, which featured Energy Minister Stuart Young, many stakeholders and climate activists, and many other experts across the world. Director of Touchstone and professor at the University of Calgary, Dr. Harry Vredenberg, who hosted and interviewed people for the documentary, told the audience that this short film was for people to get a better sense of climate change and how it impacts big energy companies.
We look at various ways of decarbonizing or mitigating emissions from fossil fuels, from carbon capture, and other things, hydrogen of various forms, from blue hydrogen which is with carbon capture, to green hydrogen. We talk about very out there technologies like direct air capture.
The documentary's director, Sylvester Ndombi, an award-winning filmmaker, said it was important to get on camera a perspective on climate change from people around the world.
50 hours of footage. We had, global thought leaders that spoke at length on this subject, but we couldn't have everything in the film for the first one. So the goal would be that we want to develop a mini series where we can be able to, develop each topic, because like Harry said, it's a very complex problem.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick,
in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
On Friday last, Guyana's Auditor General presented the 2022 Audit Report to the Speaker of the National Assembly. Shamar Allen of HGP Nightly News reports.
Auditor General Deodat Sharma on Friday handed over the 2022 Audit Report to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Manzoor Nadir. The report, which is not yet available to the public, will be accessible once it is presented in the National Assembly sometime in October. During the handing over ceremony held at Parliament Building in Georgetown, Sharma boasted of submitting the report before its statutory deadline of September 30th.
Mr. Speaker, in addition, we have also issued audit reports for 102 NDCs, 6 municipalities, and 69 statutory bodies. In fact, the Guyana Post Office Corporation, which had its accounts in arrears, now have its account audited up to 2021.
Moreover, the Speaker of the National Assembly commended the Audit Office for the timely report, noting that it is a well-oiled machine looking after the finances of the state.
The Auditor General aside, he mentioned a significant fact. And when he gave me that statistic just a few moments ago, it indicated to me that everyone is taking now very seriously the statements emanating from the Auditor General's office.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Jermaine Figuera, implored the Audit Office to do performance audits on several of the extractive industries, especially the oil and gas sector.
Guyana and Guyanese as a whole can have an understanding of where we are and more so where we can go as a country.
This is Sharma's 19th report as Auditor General and the third time that he has submitted it before the statutory deadline of September 30th. Reporter for HGP Nightly News, Shamor Allen.
In the meantime, the Information Minister has verified that one of the individuals in the recent group of 36 Haitians who sought refuge in Jamaica earlier this month was a known human trafficker from Haiti. CVM Live shared this Kimberly Henry report.
In July, a boatload of Haitians landed on Boston Beach in Portland as they fled their country, which has been battling ongoing economic, security, and political crises. They were assisted by locals and were later given legal assistance in filing for asylum. And on Saturday, another set sailed in and landed, this time on the shores of Long Bay, also in Portland. However, on Monday, they were sent back home. An act met with mixed reactions across social media. Subsequently, on Wednesday, Minister of Information Robert Morgan confirmed that among the over 30 Haitians who were sent back home 2 days after arriving on Jamaican soil is a suspected human trafficker.
The individual has entered Jamaica multiple times, and the person is suspected to be a transporter of people, and which gives us the suspicion that the person is involved in human trafficking, and we had to take steps and ensure that person was not allowed in the country.
Minister Morgan says other people on the vessel attempted to enter Jamaica before. So why didn't they seek asylum like the others?
These individuals did not seek asylum and did not express a desire to seek asylum. We do not believe, based on the interaction with them, that their intended destination was Jamaica.
He adds, while Jamaica extends grace and is willing to help Haiti with stability, the priority of the Jamaican government is to protect its people and the interest of Jamaica, while noting not all areas in Haiti are violent as portrayed.
There are many areas like Haitian that's not subjected to the issues that other areas in Haiti are suffering. So we cannot say that Haiti is a failed state. Haiti has a functioning government, it has a functioning system, but it has problems.
Kimberly Henry for CVM News.
The president of Botswana comments on the deepening of ties between his country and the Bahamas during a recent visit. Makushla Pinda of ZNS News has more.
President Mokgweetsi Masisi and his high-level delegation have had a pretty intensive itinerary, having landed here in the Bahamas on Tuesday. So far, he's acceded to granting scholarships and has shared wisdom on deepening democracy. The question, though, is what does Botswana hope to pull from the Bahamas? That is, aside from a deepened friendship and a commitment to collaborate.
I would hope to draw a greater interest in investing in the Botswana economy by the Bahamian business people, and a commitment or a desire to reciprocate for our business persons. 2. 3, I'd hope that by the time we leave, the interest between our two countries across sectors is so deep that it's taken to the next level, so that there is meaningful impact.
Making the Bahamas more known to Botswana and vice versa also on that list. After all, the end goal's to increase opportunities on a people-to-people, institution-to-institution level. And then there's this.
I would hope that we would develop common ground on critical international issues and positions, which we've discussed with the Prime Minister, and my ministers and our institutions continue to discuss with their counterparts. And 6, I'd hope that our love for each other will cement forever.
As for his trip to the Bahamas, the president called it breathtaking.
I'm still taking it all in. The sheer beauty, the friendliness, the cleanliness, the consideration, and everything that's been said since I met the Prime Minister and he invited me to come here has come to be true. And I'm going to explore more.
The Masisi spent much of Wednesday in Exuma, home to the swimming pigs. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Makushla Pinder.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.